Well, since this isn't going to get monetized anyway, now or in the future.
Lord brother, I'm going to be a god. If we honor our part of the vow, promise me you'll be my consort. I'll make the world a gentler place.
Now that that's out the way, I want to talk about my problems with the DLC. Now, this has probably been going over in other videos, but this is the one I actually care about. There's a spell, that fancy tree right there, that is supposed to be pretty good. And it is literally worse than most of the healing consumables. And it is particularly worse than the healing consumable in-game. Now, you're seeing the health tick up right now. It'll go to a certain amount. I'll cut out. I'll re-injure myself and go in and use the consumable, and you'll see the health total difference. Now, I'm sure there's a reason for this. I'm not, stupid enough to think that Chrome didn't think about this to some degree. But it does feel really weird that the tree spell takes up 2 slots, costs more FP, and heals for less. It just seems like it's strictly worse. Especially when you can just drop a big fat heal with projected heal or Erdtree heal and just cover most of the situation anyway. Instantly better. Health on the bar is better than promised health, right? So, this is one problem. Now, you've noticed the video's over 10 minutes probably at this point. So, you probably may be suspecting there's more to it than this. Yeah, there is. The other gripes are minor, though. I have a lot of specific stuff that I'm not going to ever really get into because it's not worth complaining about. Other channels have done a better in-depth version of that than I ever will, so I'm just not touching it. That said, this one is kind of personal because I liked Warmth back in the day. It was one of my favorite pyromancies, and now we got these warming stones that essentially are the same thing but better. But they're, there's no cost to them really. They got FP cost tied to them, but realistically, even someone with a very basic mind investment can still use them pretty well. Or at least pretty reasonably, I would say. That said, this is kind of my gripe. The spells in the DLC either seem to A, not scale at all, have big issues, or are just strictly worse, again, than the either consumable or the weapon art option that's in kind of the same boat. This is not a new problem with Elden Ring, however. It's been like this for a long time. And understand when I say worse, I'm speaking from a overall perspective. The spell can be more damaging. The spell can be whatever else. But typically the spell and the weapon art don't scale off the same thing. The lightning spells versus the lightning weapon arts, or Ashes of War, whatever, are a good example of this. One scales with Dex, one scales with Faith. So, that's kind of a problem. If you're looking at this from a perspective of trying to make a cohesive build, that makes it really difficult under certain circumstances. Especially if you have a theme you're trying to run with, like say lightning build, just in general. Now, with fire and regular holy damage, it's not that bad. You got Faith and it mostly scales off of everything. But you have things like this, where you have, again, the same problem. The spell and the consumable are close enough. Now here, the Golden Vow spell is, I think, superior. I think it's worth the spell slot. It lasts longer, which I don't think I'm going to show off in the video. But it is also like, 6-7% strong or something like that. It's a significant amount, but not enough to really matter. The fact is you can get that upgrade on close enough with the consumable to make it a problem. Now here I'm just going to showcase a bunch of spells that are one after the other And kind of my issues with them are usually damage or some associated detail. In the case of the Crucible incantations, it's just that they don't make a whole lot of sense for their damage. And this just kind of goes on and on. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, unfortunately. Things like this spell, actually, it's pretty good. It's worth the investment. It's worth the 2 slots. It does a decent amount of damage. I think it's all holy damage, but still pretty good. Apparently, it doesn't get buffed by the one casting element that's supposed to buff it, but I wasn't testing with those, so that's not where we're at. We're just waking up the loyal testing troll, and get stuck at the corner. I hate doing raw footage. Anyway, point of fact is, this is the situation we're in. And it's gotten better, I guess. But it's still nowhere really where it needs to be. And I'm showing off a lot of the DLC incantations and spells here. There'll be a few from the sorcerer later. This is another one that's hilarious, but I think probably bad. Now, I haven't used this one a whole lot, so some of y'all out there that have used it can probably correct me. The roar, the bear roar, as I'm going to call it, to not butcher the name, probably has a lot better benefit than running with all the guilds above it. So, as that's typically how these things work, not gonna. I just think it needs to get looked at. Like, something's up with the roars in this game. This we all know is borked. It's real good, and it's been real good. That, however, people were saying you can use this and get headway with it. I don't see it. If I'm missing something, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure it also does bleed. But, I mean, if it doesn't, then it's real bad. So, there is that. That said, we always got the broken. Let's move on. What's up next? Well, we finally get to the sorceries. I really like this spell. It is probably not great in PvP, but I can see it being a very good spell for a heavy caster, like someone who has not invested a whole lot into intelligence, but has invested more into their physical stat and their armor. Area of Denial is good, no matter how you do it. That spell's not bad either. People are saying it's bad, but it casts relatively quickly, and it has 2 hits. Yeah, it's easy to dodge, but I mean, again, if you're looking for Area of Denial, that's a pretty decent thing to do. This for PvE is actually pretty decent. I'm going to compare this with the fire version of it later, which you'll see why I'm making the comparison. Doesn't quite kill the loyal testing troll, but this is also another spell that I think did okay. We'll come back here with the Twin Moon shortly. And this is just wild. Now, like I said, there's not a whole lot to say with these. What you see is what you get in a lot of cases. And I actually really like that one because it lets you just avoid the ground for a significant amount of time. My Godfrey fight's going to get this fun. But there are other things going on. And again, specifically, I made the comparison to the fire spell. I forget the name of it. I guess it's not the next clip. This is Spira. People are saying this thing is bad, and I don't know. I don't think it's good, but it has its limitations here. You can see the range. It won't quite reach those guys from the top of the stairs. You have to move down a little bit. But I think if you got really practiced at, like, changing your targets with this and getting one hit on everything, it might actually be pretty decent. Now this is a mess. It hits a couple times as you cast it. I think it's once or twice. But its big payoff, of course, is supposedly be the rot and the big area of effect that it has. Which sounds really cool, and it looks amazing. Don't get me wrong, the spectacle of this incantation is just fabulous, is the best way I can put it. Unfortunately, we have another incantation that does the same thing, but better. And we've had it since millennia existed. I mean, Aeonia is tough to beat now. Is it good in PvP? I don't know, but look at that. That's a lot of damage plus a block rock, compared to the other one that takes forever and has no armor. They need to do something with the other spell. I'm not saying everything's broken or the sky is falling or nothing, but these things need to get looked at. Casters need a pass. Can we get something? That's all I got, guys.